In an effort to take care of myself, I took a major leap of faith and I left my traditional career as a classroom teacher without a solid plan. It was the greatest risk of my life, but I just knew that once I found that new career, that new job, that things would get better. What I didn't know was that what I truly needed was rest, and not in the traditional sense. My name is Kara Cashwell. I'm an educator of 14 years, an entrepreneur, and I work with Black women to teach them about burnout and how to navigate it. Today, we're talking about rest and 7 ideas around it. Now, some might have some familiar ideas around it, while others might be new. Idea number 1: you were never lazy, just exhausted. What if I told you that laziness isn't real? Now, you surely have been praised for being strong, but maybe you were punished for needing to rest. And I don't mean punished, go sit in the corner, but you heard about it. You heard negative commentary, or there was just that tone, right? That tone of voice that told you that you had somehow displeased someone. So I want you to reframe laziness as potentially unrecognized burnout in Black women. Because let's be honest, let's face it, if you were truly lazy, you'd be perfectly okay with that title and doing that. You wouldn't be frustrated. You wouldn't be bothered by letting things slack or having others pick up where you've left off and weren't able to complete. And you probably would have stopped watching this video if that was truly the case. So as we go on, we're going to name 6 more ideas around this topic, and I want you to begin reframing your thoughts about laziness and consider that laziness is temporary, right? We can temporarily be lazy. What you may have been experiencing has been going on long term, weeks, months, years. Idea number 2: burnout is not a badge of honor, and exhaustion is not a sign of excellence. Now, we've been conditioned to prove our worth through sacrifice. Consider this. How many times have you been a part of or observed a conversation that became a competition for tiredness? People go back and forth trading what's on their to-do list or what they've already accomplished, comparing who has it worse, essentially. And while we all have different lots and paths and responsibilities and roles in life, this competition of one-upmen, or what I like to call the exhaustion Olympics, there's no prize in it at all. And I also understand the idea that it seemed to be, or it used to be, that the harder you worked, the greater your success. There was a pretty close correlation there. And now that simply isn't true. And this is a residual or a holdover from work culture that no longer holds up. It's tired and it needs to be put to rest. This burnout as a badge of honor in Black women who have been socialized to be twice as good for half the recognition and to carry not only their own burdens and challenges and strifes, but that of their communities and their workplaces. It just feels different. For Black women, burnout isn't just about overwork. It's about a generation's deep pressure to be strong, to endure, and to keep going at no cost. Again, exhaustion Olympics. Nobody wins. I want you to reframe this as rest is not weakness. It's an ability for us to return back to center, back to ourselves. Have you ever caught yourself participating in this Olympic sport of who's the most tired or who has the greater burden? What did you win? Can you show us your prize? Maybe just more work, huh? Okay, moving on. Idea number 3. And this is the myth of the strong Black woman and how it is slowly killing us. So consider this. Who told you you had to be strong all the time? You probably didn't hear it once. It may not have been very directly said to you, but it was taught to you indirectly, whether it was through conversations or through media. Consider the books, the movies, the TV shows, the news articles, the magazines. These all play a role in teaching and conditioning not only us as Black women, but those around us, that we need to exude a superhuman level of strength. And think about this. What did that strength look like to those on the outside? So if you were watching the movie, if you were specifically watching the movie, you saw a picture or you saw others experiencing it, going through it, because these are very much, you're on the outside looking in. Consider, what did that look like? What were examples of that? What were signs of it? And then flip it. And I want you to move internally. So this is where we can get a better idea a lot of times in media, whether it's through books, spaces where the main character is able to express or share, or we get insight into how they felt about it, right? Maybe in person you saw the way someone engaged and handled a situation, but then you got to see the behind the curtains and how their shoulders slumped, or they sighed and let out a breath, or a single, not a single tear, it's not Denzel, but a tear escaped, or you could see what it felt like versus what it looks like to be presentable. You know that in your own profession and work, right? The difference between how you present to a customer or to a boss, someone on the outside, versus what are you and your coworkers saying, right? What does it feel like behind the scenes? And of course, these are coworkers who you can, share and see that with. But consider that. What did it feel like to grin and bear through? Understanding that the history of Black women being strong, that isn't so much the problem in and of itself, because there is some fact here. We are strong. We know this. However, the difference is, it's one of the few things that Black women get to be uninterrupted and without someone complaining about it, right? Much like the exhaustion Olympics, there's no prize here for Black women. Our strength doesn't even seem to earn us the right to rest without someone commenting, someone intervening. Consider moments where Black women are exuding and expressing joy in some sense, and how someone else might come along and interrupt that and have a problem with it. But if those same Black women were expressing struggle and strife, or were exhibiting it, they might be ignored. So let's keep going. And let's learn about how the Black Resiliency Retreat is ready to meet you and ready to help you navigate some of these challenges. So idea number 4, how do we listen to a burned out body? Your body is whispering. Are you listening? Maybe it's even screaming, yelling at you. Consider or think about that sleep doesn't always feel like rest. You likely, like me, have had those nights where you lay in bed staring at the ceiling, hoping, wishing, praying that sleep will come, but it's not. Our nervous system when we're experiencing burnout is wired to stay alert, to stay on edge, and it doesn't feel safe to let its guard down. So reframe your thinking around rest in this way. Rest really starts, or it can occur, when your body feels safe, not just that it's still. You can lie around all you want, but when you're feeling anxious or having unreleased negative energy, we know that sleep is not coming. It's not coming anytime soon. And in fact, trying to fall asleep feels like work when we're trying to rest in preparation for work. So there are some specific activities, tasks that you can take that can help your body feel safe. Now, I'm going to share with you a small example. These are not miracle workers. This is not something that's going to happen overnight, but that's what so much of our work is about. It's these small, tiny, incremental steps that accumulate and build momentum over time and allow our bodies to care for themselves the way they know that they need. And a lot of times our world, our society, the demands on us force us to ignore. So there's a great variety of things that you can do to help ground your body. And what I mean by ground your body is the quickest kind of visual I can think of is imagine you're balancing on one foot. So if this hand is your foot and this hand is the ground, your foot's balancing on it, and you're barefoot. So you might have a tendency to set your weight to one side. You might go back and forth, side to side. You might rock back on your heel. You might go forward on your tippy toe, because remember, you're balancing on one foot here. So you might be kind of doing all these things, trying to help keep yourself. You're not stable. What we want to do is help your body to let go, release, so that it can ground itself, so that all these different areas are having contact at the same time. And this is not balancing on a foot. That was just to give you a visual for what's kind of occurring in your body. It's offset. It's easy to knock over and push, but when it's grounded, it's relaxed, it's solid, it's fully supported. So that's what I'm talking about when I say ground your body. When we feel that energy to kind of go, you're not settled and grounded. This is something that a lot of athletes and dancers experience, and is very important and critical to the work that they do, is to find that balance, that center of gravity, all those kinds of things that play into it. So let's go through a quick activity to try that out. And this is a grounding exercise. So you're going to hold up your hand with the number 5. I want you to look around and find 5 things that you see and name them aloud. Then you're going to find 4 things that you can touch, 3 things that you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. And it is key and critical that you say these things aloud. It all basically works on the science of the brain, and it helps to force your brain out of the routine of panic, worry, stress, anxiety, all of these things. Is just in this rhythm, and that's what it knows how to do. And what we're doing with this exercise is we're breaking it. We're forcing it to stop, take in the environment, and be present. And as it starts to do that, slowly all those things that were kind of go on edge, they kind of start to slow down and settle. Again, this is not going to occur the very first time you do it. You might even find it hard or challenging or frustrating the first time you do it. But in time, the idea is that it forces us to be present, to get out of that abstract thinking and barreling thoughts that come flying, things that we need to do, things that happened. And it forces us to be present right here in the moment. What is immediately around us? What are we immediately taking in with our body? And that helps to keep all that rocking and instability. And in time, and the more we do it, we retrain our brain so that we can better settle and ground ourselves. Now, that's one example, but it was a quick example that I could share with you in this format to give you an idea of some of the things that we're going to do as a part of the Black Resiliency Retreat, and the ways that we can layer in simple tasks. And in time, you might find that one, I don't like it, don't work for me. That's fine. We have a it's very important to us that there's a variety of offerings so that people can pick and choose the things that fit and work for them. You might have one that you already know of, that you already employ, and that's beautiful and wonderful. And in our community, we invite participants to share those things, because I don't know it all. I have not experienced it all. I know my body, my experience, and what I've learned and seen. You might have other things to share and explore that I could learn from. So keep in mind that any of the ideas that are shared are always tossed out kind of on the menu, and you choose what you want. Okay, so next up, we're going to think about idea number 5. What does real rest look like for Black women? Why does it look different? Well, if you're a Black woman, you probably already know. If you're not a Black woman, well, maybe it's an opportunity to sit back, listen, and observe, not question. But it does. It just does. So rest isn't always naps. And that's true for not just Black women, but I'm speaking to Black women, okay? Rest isn't always naps. Sometimes it looks like boundaries. Sometimes it looks like joy. We keep waiting for permission to slow down. That permission is not ever coming. Unfortunately, the society we live in profits from the go, 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 even as it wears us down. So that permission's not coming. The only person who can give you permission is you yourself. Even me saying right now, here in this moment, you have permission to rest, and to rest in the way that looks comfortable, that works for you. I can say that till I'm blue in the face, but it's not until you embody it and choose it for yourself and give yourself that permission. And sometimes in order to do that, we have to block ourselves off and create this safe space. And that's why the rest can look like setting a boundary so that your body can relax, so that your mind can relax. And that's why it can also look like joy, where we're layering these opportunities for our body to get the movement and exude the energy that we need. So you have to give yourself permission. That's really key. Now, what you do need is a strategy and support, and that's what we're here to do. So let's go back and think about idea number 4, when I mentioned trying to lay down and you're trying to sleep and you're trying to rest, and it doesn't feel like rest, because it isn't. And that's because rest can take the shape of many things beyond sleep. Here's a great example. Consider the way that people vacation. People will vacation a variety of ways. You've got those who want to go sit out on the beach and read a book, and they can listen to the waves in their book all day, keep the food and the beverages flowing, and they're happy. Then you have those who can't sit still. They need to be moving, they need to be active, they want to be going on the excursions, they want some sort of thrill, exciting thing, and for them that's their rest, and that allows them to break out of their routine and to come back to center. And then you have those who are a little bit of hybrid. They might read on the beach in the morning, but then they want to get a little bit active and they want to engage their mind, build a new set of skills. They'll go to a cooking class, or they want to learn something. They go to a museum or do a city tour. They want to ride bikes. They want to go for the walk. They want to engage their body in some kind of way. So they're in between. These are all valid forms of rest. And here's the kicker. Any one person could enjoy all 3 of those ideas and options at any given time. It just depends on what they need and where they're at. Okay, so when we consider that there's different forms of vacationing, it helps us make sense of the idea that rest can be more than just a nap. It can be more than just sleeping. Rest can look different, feel different, and we can choose different forms of it at any given time. We're not locked into one idea because we choose it. So I want us to try out a rest idea, and this involves you considering 3 tasks that you have for the day. The first task, or one of the tasks, I'm sorry, one of them, doesn't matter which order, but one of the tasks, consider postponing or canceling it. Now, the postponement can be later in the day, later in the week, the month, the year. It's up to you, but if you're postponing it, you're pushing it off, or you can cancel it. So either one of those two. The second task is one that you can't cancel, you can't postpone. This is one of those must do. So that might be picking the kids up from school or camp. You gotta do it. So you're gonna keep that one just as it is. The third task, you're gonna reframe it, you're gonna reshape it, you're gonna change the way it feels to move through that task. And there's a number of ways that we can do that. We can chunk it, so you can break it up into chunks and get a little bit done, different parts. This is strategic because you want to plan out ahead of time. I'm going to specifically do this amount, and then I'm going to stop. And then I'm going to do this amount, and then I'm going to stop. And you're going to work through it until it's completed. So chunk it. You can pair it with an enjoyable activity. So if it's laundry or loading the dishwasher, I want these mundane tasks that we just got to do. Maybe you pair it with a podcast, pair it with music, or pair it with listening to an audiobook. Again, the things that we talk about and list aren't always ground shaking new, but it's intentional and strategic. The third idea is to partner it with some form of joy you don't need to explain. So often, at least I found that some of the things that I enjoy, the little fun, quirky, weird, whatever things I enjoy, I often it had to be within a certain box or at a certain place and time that it was considered or deemed okay. And so often that meant that those little pieces of joy got pushed to the back burner and I didn't get to see them very often. One of those things being, for me personally, is dressing up. I love putting on a big frilly dress. And so what I do sometimes is I'll pair those mundane tasks and I'll put on a pretty dress. I might just throw an apron on over it, but I get to wear it. It's that joy. I like the sensation. I like the feeling of it. It has a tactile component to it. I like the way I look, and it just brings about joy. The same can be true with putting on jewelry. You know, you might put on some big fancy jewelry that you have, or putting on a full face of makeup while you do whatever. These are little bits of joy that are just for you. Why not do it while you do the mundane thing? So these are ways that you can infuse acts of rest, acts of resilience into that task. So doubling back, that's 3 tasks that you're reconsidering. The first, postpone, potentially cancel. The second, keep it as it is because you have to. And the third is reframe it. So partner it with something else, pair it with something else that just helps bring in layers and joy as you go about it. All right. So and to say that also, the reason why we do that is it also better fits into the energy you have that day. Okay, that's really crucial, is that you're paying attention to how am I feeling, because again, any one of those can be beautiful. You might decide today I'm feeling really joyful, exuberant, and you decide you're going to put on music and dance. Other times the energy might be, I'm feeling a little bit more internal. Maybe I'm gonna listen to a podcast or listen to a book that better matches it. We want to make sure that we're aligning that energy wherever it is with the task, and that's what allows it to be a way to layer in rest and joy together. Okay, there are just two more ideas. You've made it this far. Two more ideas around rest that I want to share with you. The sixth idea is 3 important questions that came about as I was navigating my own burnout and experience. This helped to crack open what I was experiencing, why I was experiencing it, and reshape, reframe, and I won't forget them. So the first question is, what am I carrying that was never mine to hold? This question gets to the root of inherited roles, emotional labor, and generational expectations, whether it be personal or in our professional roles. So I'll share an example from my personal and professional experiences. So personally, I realized that I was carrying expectations for how I cared for and laid out my home that I picked up from others and didn't belong to me. It's amazing the liberation that I felt when I realized that I didn't need to do things the way others did them or the way that maybe even I was taught to do them. There was nothing wrong with them. I learned the why and the how, and then I get to choose. Do I hold that same value and importance? Do I want to carry it out in my home in the way that I go about things? So how I set up my home played a role. As for professional experiences, as teachers, we are taught and expected to overfunction on the behalf of others and to do so without complaint. And in time, I learned ways to deflect that expectation while still supporting the ultimate goal. And I share a lot more about how I went about doing that within the Black Resiliency Retreats. But I pushed some of that burden back on others. Let's move along to question 2. What would rest feel like if I didn't feel guilty? You may have had that experience where you were doing some activity, maybe intentionally or unintentionally, that was desirable and restful. And then you hear someone coming along and you do that jump, or you quickly move on so they don't see that you're doing something that's perfectly fine to do, but you don't want to be perceived as resting, not being productive, or lazy. So an example I give in regards to that, on maybe a bigger scale for sure, is my first summer off as a teacher. I spent the first 2 weeks really struggling with the idea of getting paid but not going to work. I was feeling guilty. And it wasn't until I reframed it for the truth that it was, which is that I'd already done the work. The school system was just behind on paying me. It really helped to bring to surface some internalized standards from society, responsibility, and the fears around being perceived as lazy. It opened the door for me imagining rest as my right, and recognizing that had I not been overpaid, underworked, I would have still had this rest. It just would have been spread out across the school year, not condensed into a summer break. And so these ideas around teachers having it easy, getting the summers off, getting off at 3 p.m., all these myths and misunderstandings, I was able to throw them out the window. Question number 2, or sorry, I think this is question number 3. What is of higher value? What feeling is of higher value than productivity? In other words, what is more important to me that I feel than the fact that I am productive. Because here's the reality. I am not only hardwired, I enjoy being productive. I enjoy seeing the progress that I've made. I enjoy moving towards a goal, whether it's mine or it's a goal that I support. I enjoy that. So the productivity is going to happen. What may not always happen is prioritizing my feelings around either that productivity or how I'm just feeling in general in life. So I had to stop and think, what do I want to feel? At the end of the day, even when I've been the most productive, or when maybe I haven't been productive, what do I want to feel at the end of the day? When I come home, what metric am I using to measure this? And for me, it was that I wanted to feel peace. I wanted to feel ease, connection, and joy. And this helped me identify the real goals behind the grind, that in doing these things, productive tasks, and rising to the occasion and meeting these goals, they were creating space for these things to exist. But it was important that I ensured they were there regardless of whether I hit those targets or those goals. So at the end of the day, no matter what had happened, my environment I realized was important, that I made adjustments and changes so that I felt or helped to melt away any feelings of being overwhelmed, but more importantly, that I felt peace and at ease. This could include color schemes, the way the furniture is arranged, what kind of pieces I have, the general functionality of my space. Because in reality, what it was is that I was holding too much for too long for too many other people. And I was leaving myself for last. And I was already drained, so I didn't have anything else to give. So I need to make sure that undercurrent, that constant, that consistent cared for and took care of me along the way. So reframe this. Reflection isn't indulgent. It's how we come back to ourselves. All right, you made it. We're on to our 7th and final idea around burnout and rest. And this one is what they never told us about healing. It's not loud, it's not perfect, and it's not linear. You won't find it in overworking. You won't find it in perfection. Healing is quiet and subtle, doesn't have a particular look, despite what you see on Pinterest or Instagram, or what you might see in the healing and wellness spaces. It can include beautiful imagery, and that can be helpful and powerful, but it's not the end all be all. It's not a sign or a signal of healing. The real work, the real beauty, and the real rest is a feeling. It's not an aesthetic. Healing is the moments when you let yourself laugh, cry, breathe as forms of rest. And that's it. 7 ideas around rest and burnout for Black women. You were never lazy, just exhausted. Burnout is not a badge of honor. The myth of the Black woman is killing us. How can we listen to a burned out body? What does real rest look like for Black women? 3 questions that can change our burnout recovery. And finally, what they never told us about healing. I am Kara Cashel. I am the founding member, owner, the end all be all, everything of Black Resiliency Retreat. And I invite you to join us for our live webinar, our next live webinar. I will include the details for doing so below, but you can always find them at blackresiliencyretreat.com. You will need to register and open up that email and hit the confirmation button, or else you're not on the list. And in the webinar, we're going to discuss more about what burnout is, how it impacts Black women, and how the Black Resiliency Retreat can be a partner and work with you, creating opportunities for learning, experience, and community. And in that 90-minute webinar, I'm going to also include a bonus gift if you stay to the end, as well as some other offers that you might find once you want to jump on. I'm sorry, I've been talking too long. My mind is, but I hope to see you there. And I'm so glad you stuck around for this video.